Welcome, Rotarians and guests, to meeting 5,477 of the Rotary Club of San Jose. You guys are great. Today's greeting line was the Unhoused Impact Committee. We're going to get them some podium time in the next few weeks, and you're going to hear about some great projects that they're doing. Thank you, Unhoused Impact Committee. You are having an impact. Hi. Guest introductions today on our traveling red badgers with microphones. Today I've got Scott Hughes and Artie Aryan. Artie, are you still a red badge? Come on. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us a fun fact about you. And I think Scott Hughes might be waiting for a microphone. No? Did you get one? Okay, go ahead and say a few things about yourself and let the club know about you.
All right, this is Scott Hughes. I'm with the Office of Vice Mayor Pam Foley, who just happens to be my sponsor as well. Happy to be here. I hope you're doing well, President Heather.
Me too. We have a great sponsor, Pam Foley, in common.
I like to think so as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Okay, Artie.
Yeah, Artie Aryan, President and CEO of Renewable America. So it's a pleasure. I'm almost, I would say, 9 months part of Rotary. So I'm excited to stay here longer for many, many years.
Thank you so much. Artie is so involved, I thought for sure he was blue already. Okay, if you are a visiting Rotarian or a Rotarian with a guest, please stand so our microphones can find you. I know I've got... Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, President Heather. Long time no see. I'd like to introduce my guest, Linda Roper. She's recently retired from the math department at San Jose State, and her father was a Rotarian on the East Coast, and she is very patient. She's my golf partner.
Welcome, Linda. Glad you're here. Welcome. Hi,
Hello,
Kathleen.
President Heather. Kathleen Thomas, and I'm delighted to introduce Mike Sims, who so graciously swept in and saved us when we were having website glitches for ELC, referred by Dan Orloff. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome so much. I'm glad you're here.
Right in front of you.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Heather. Happy to introduce my guest, who's an honorary Rotarian, my mother, Maureen Ellenberg.
Woo! Welcome, Maureen. Hi, Dave.
Hi, President Heather. I'm introducing my guest today. It's Lori Mitchell, who's the director of San Jose Clean Energy.
Ooh, great to have you. Thanks for being in the room. Pretty light on intros today. Anybody else? All right, we're going to speed through this agenda then. Today is the first meeting of the month, so you know what that means. It means it's Ring the Bell. If you're new in the room, I think we have a few new guests here. If you're new in the room, Ring the Bell is when we announce great news. We do a $100 contribution to our foundation, share some great news, or share just something you're going through, and anything that needs some love and attention, we welcome that as well. So if we can start us off, anyone with Ring the Bell, please stand up so our microphones can find you. I've got, oh yes, go ahead, hi. How's it going, Dave?
President Heather, I'd like to ring the bell one time in support of our Bay FC women's soccer team.
Ooh.
1 win, 1 tie, 1 loss in their first 3 matches. And for those who are interested in securing tickets for an upcoming game, especially those who were unsuccessful last Saturday night with the auction items, I'd like to invite you to visit our Hot Works next Wednesday, April 9, as Bay FC staff will be there to share ticket details from 4 to 7, and I'm going to be there cheering you on to buy tickets. Everyone here.
Thank you so much.
And we're also offering...
Wait, is this still on one way? Is this still one ring? Is this still one ring? All right, we don't... There's, okay, 2 rings. Woo, thank you so much, 2 rings. Appreciate that. Kathleen, go ahead.
Hi, I know it's a little bit old news for some people, but I'm just back, so I wanted to give 1 ring for ELC committee members for a fantastic ELC successful program this year. I want to give a 2nd ring for Ravinder Lal and Joan Escobar for graciously donating a lot of our printed materials, so that was fantastic. And a 3rd ring for our incoming chair, Catherine Vandeveer, and the next year's James Williams.
Fantastic. 3 rings. Thank you so much for that generous contribution. Steve Ellenberg.
Thanks, Heather. So I have a little bit of ringing to do. 4 things to announce, 3 good news and 1 shameless plug. So in the really good and grateful news, sorry we missed the gala. Some of you may know we were in Washington, D.C., where our youngest daughter, Nava, underwent successfully, according to the doctors, surgery to remove a tumor from her pituitary gland. And I just want to call out the names of the doctors. Yusuf Kumair and Dr. Ramanathan from Johns Hopkins. And a little editorial comment. Thank God for immigrants in our country. I don't know where our medical services would be without them, who did outstanding work. And she's recovering at home in Washington, D.C., and doing very well. More good news about our daughter, Molly, our middle daughter, whose dissertation at University of Maryland was approved, and so we have another Dr. Ellenberg in our family.
Yes.
And also, Molly was a good month for her. She was engaged to marry Zach Shank, and we are very excited about that. And then the shameless plug, Susan's campaign kickoff for supervisor is Sunday, May 4th at 2 p.m., and I'm going to give a sneak preview to everyone who received the email but didn't hear who the speakers were. So we're going to be joined by Speaker of the Assembly, Rob Rivas, and our terrific United States Senator, Adam Schiff. And so for all of that, 10 rings.
Woo! Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your good news with us so we can be a part of it. I think I've got Sarah Klisch back there.
You do, President Heather. I want to give a shout out to the international programs for Rotary, most specifically to my club colleague Kathleen Thomas for leading the trip to Chachapoyas, Peru, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I feel like I have a much better understanding of what Rotary does on an international basis. And I want to thank her for her patience as she worked with a number of Rotarians, both here in the U.S. as well as in Chachapoyas, Peru, to have such a successful event. And we look forward to the water treatment project being finished.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Not you.
Suzanne St. John Crane.
Hello, President Heather. So much fun Saturday night. I would like to ring the bell once because I'm announcing that I am, after 9 years, leaving ALF, American Leadership Forum, completing my tenure there as the CEO, and have launched an LLC, St. Crane Strategies, and my first big client for the next year and a half is going to be the Friends of Levitt Pavilion.
Congratulations.
So I will be working on building the Levitt Pavilion in St. James Park with 50 free concerts for the community and a state-of-the-art performing arts facility for our arts groups and community members to take advantage of. So get ready, get set. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Great news for you, great news for San Jose.
Hi, President Heather. Tom
Tom
Bondi.
Bondi.
I'll ring the bell twice. Once for our upcoming chair of ELC, Catherine Vanderveer. And secondly, for our club, for the foundation, for all you've done for ELC all these years to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. 2 rings. There's Terry Chapman. I feel like you've been waiting a while. Hi, Terry.
Yeah, how are you doing, President Heather?
Absolutely perfect.
So the last time I rang the bell was in, I think, November, and we had a son that got married, and we just had another son that got married in January. So I'm ringing the bell for him and also for our third son and youngest one who turned 30, so that's 2 rings.
Congratulations. Great family news.
President Heather, I
Hello.
would love to ring the bell twice in honor of that incredible gala committee. What an event that was. I mean, it was packed to the walls, and it was so much fun. Thank you for all your hard work, every one of you.
2 rings. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You know, Stephanie, Suzanne, can you come up here and join us for just a quick moment? Stephanie Bylansky Fair and Suzanne Wolf, come on up here.
Can I ring the bell twice first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, once for Suzanne, the most amazing co-chair of the gala. Thank you for everything. And then another ring for the amazing gala committee as well. We could not have pulled it off without you. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 rings, come on up. The Rotary staff thanks you too. This event is so huge, as you know, it could crush a staff or it could help us blossom. We have a few beautiful things for you. We'll get a photo on this because we're very crummy. And it's first, oh my God. Let's go over here. Oh, is this good? Let's get out of the light. Wait, go right over here. We call it the magic slice. Come in the magic slice. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Fernando.
Yes, I'd like to ring the bell once for my son Daniel, who missed Saturday's gala because he was a DJ at his daughter Olivia's first grade class first ball.
Oh, beautiful. For Daniel. Thank you. Okay, are we good on ring the bell? Oh, we've got one more back here. Fantastic.
Okay, I'd like to ring the bell one time to celebrate one of life's very simple pleasures. As you all know, my sister, or maybe you don't know, my sister is really working hard to recover function after a stroke about 14 months ago. And yesterday, for the first time since before her stroke, without assistance, she ordered something on Amazon.
No, that's the truest mark of normalcy. I'm so happy for you. Thank you. All right. Who is that back there? Hi.
Hi, this is Tudo.
Hi, Tu.
I'd like to ring one bell for my son. He is 30 years old, who has been in the workforce since he graduated for 7 years. He was laid off 3 months ago from his company, and last week he received 2 job offers. So today he officially accepted one offer. So I'm very happy with the young, talented, and hardworking adult.
Thank you so much for sharing the good news with us. A lot of great family news in the room today. It really is a bucket filler. All right, I'll go down and ring the bell. Thank you, guys. That was beautiful. Thank you. Next up, I've got Doug Smith coming up with something which is a San Jose classic Rotary moment. Come on up. Doug Smith.
Hello, I'm Douglas Smith. I'm with the Whiskey Education Foundation. Just a little fact I'd like to let you all know. The daytime drinking is actually the healthiest, the best time to drink. That brings me up to my next point. We're going to do the Mini Masters, Brian Adams Mini Masters, at Urban Putt with a full cocktail bar at noontime. So, we would love you to sign up. I'll be out there. This is going to be, again, our Mini Masters. You can put together a team. You can sign up on your own. You can, and we'll put you together on a team. It'll be a wonderful event. It's open to the kids. Why are we having kids at an event with alcohol? Because it's up to us to set a good example. And so I got a lot of reasons for you to sign up today. So it's going to be social activity for the Rotary Club. It's going to be a time to do healthy drinking, a time to set a good example, and just a great fellowship and fun event. So please sign up out there today. And I'll be waiting for you. Thank you.
What office are you running for next? I think you could do it. That was great. All right, next up. I hope I can win that bobblehead once and for all. I've never won the famous bobblehead. Hope that's back. Mary Curtis, Disaster Relief.
Hello, everybody. As you may remember, last July, there was a wildfire complex that developed in Jasper National Park in Alberta. And there were fires to the north and south of Jasper, which grew out of control, forcing a mass evacuation of 25,000 residents, workers, and visitors. The 2 fires merged, destroying 358 of 1,100 structures. Not until September 7th did Parks Canada declare the wildfire under control, estimating that it had decimated over 80,000 acres. One firefighter had been killed, and insurance companies paid $880 million in claims, making it one of the most expensive natural disasters in Canadian history. Our Disaster Relief Committee has been working with the Rotary Club of Jasper to identify projects within the community that need support. Of the several choices that they vetted for our consideration, our committee has voted to support rebuilding the Jasper Farmers Market with a gift of $2,500. It will be used to replace essential gear and the items that include tables, tents, wagons, signage, and branded market bags, all of which contribute to food security and also the vibrancy of this treasured gathering place. We have contacted disaster sites closer to home in California. I want to assure all of you of that because that's a natural question. But we will next turn our attention to our sister club in Okayama, Japan, where there has been another major fire burning and forced the evacuation of over 2,000 people. So that's my progress report.
So when I think about this club, hey, it's President's time, I can pontificate for a minute. When I think about this club and all the things you just heard in a span of about 22 minutes, family, great news, coming together, the camaraderie in this room, this being that third space, the international projects, you guys are all making that happen, and thank you for being part of this room and making it part of your life. More fun. In addition to the mini masters, we also have an upcoming downtown happy hour. We do that mixer with ourselves here at the Rotary Club. We bring in the Downtown Association and also the Chamber of Commerce. So this one's going to be a lot of fun, also at Urban Putt. So check that out coming up. And not even sure if the poetry contest. Now I know for a fact that one of you in this room has already entered the poetry contest. I am looking for a San Jose winner, and I think that we have a lot of poets in this room. So if you have a poem in you, go ahead and enter the poetry contest. This is the Rotary International Poetry Contest, and we'll see if we can get a San Jose winner. This is open until April 30th. So you've got a few weeks to throw some stuff through a chat GPT. All right, we're going to start just a smidge early today. We've got some time, so I'm going to bring up Shiloh Ballard to introduce our guest of the week. Can't wait. Shiloh Ballard.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to show off my new blue badge as of a week old. I'm also a newly minted member of the program committee, and on my first program committee meeting, they mentioned that they were looking for a speaker on the future of energy and the energy transition, and I said, I know just the agency that would be absolutely wonderful to go to find a speaker on this, and that is Silicon Valley Clean Energy. So I reached out, and they were like, we know the person, and that is Zoe Elizabeth. And so I'm here to introduce Zoe, despite the fact that she has a first name as a last name, and we should never trust people like that. So Zoe has over a decade of experience leading regional decarbonization and resilience initiatives. She served as sustainability manager for the County of Santa Clara, as associate director of the Los Angeles Regional Collaborative for Climate Action and Sustainability, and co-founded the California Center for Sustainable Communities at UCLA. Here's the really important part. She has a master's in urban planning, thank you, from UCLA, where she focused on regional approaches to climate action. She also earned a leadership in sustainability certificate from UCLA's Anderson School of Management. So welcome, Zoe.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I already feel so inspired. We are in a time when there's a lot of negativity and arguing out there in the world, and how wonderful just to be in a room of folks that are focused on community and focused on doing good. I already feel uplifted, so thank you so much for lunch and just for the upliftment. So the title of my talk, I'm going to focus on the energy transition, but this is the tagline of SVCE, the power of community, and I felt like it was also just what so much about the Rotary is about, that you all would get it. You're really experts in the power of community. So it's also kind of the theme that runs through everything that I'm going to talk about today. Okay. So I basically have three components that I'm going to go through. This is the kind of talk, the energy transition. We could do 6 weeks talking about where we are in the energy transition. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview, and then I'm going to open it up kind of to your conversations. But I'm going to start really briefly just with who SVCE is, so you have a sense of kind of where we sit in this transition. And then I'm going to kind of talk at a high level, where are we? Why are we doing this energy transition, and where do we need to go? And then focus on kind of what this looks like on the community level, which I really see the foundation of this global transition really is about community action. Okay, so SVCE is the Community Choice Energy Agency for 13 Santa Clara County communities. You can see those that we serve right there, but it's often easiest just to say who we don't serve, which is one, the wonderful city of San Jose, who is served by their own CCA, the city of Santa Clara, and the city of Palo Alto, who have their own publicly owned utilities, although we all work really closely together as agencies across this region. And we were formed by 13 local jurisdictions, really with the mission to reduce dependence on fossil fuel and to help our cities address climate change. We have been able to save our customers since our founding $141 million in on-bill savings because we're able to offer a discount to PG&E. We've also dedicated tens of millions of dollars towards customer programs, a few that I will talk about today. And mostly because of the power procurement that we have dedicated in our electricity sector, we've also seen real reductions in carbon pollution. But maybe the most important question about SVCE is kind of how it works. Some of you already may well know this, but for those of you who don't, the way that CCAs work is that we are able to purchase electricity. That electricity runs through the wires of PG&E's infrastructure, and it's delivered to customers. Because we're locally owned and we don't have shareholders, we then are able to reinvest money back into the community. CCAs are really a movement across California. So we have 25 sisters and brother agencies across California, as you can see here. Okay, so that's sort of generally who SVCE is and who the CCAs are and where I speak from. And now, getting to the big picture, the energy transition. So first of all, what is that? What does that mean? It's a kind of big words. It means a lot of things. But basically, what we're saying is that over the next 2 decades, California has committed to transitioning away from an economy that's powered by fossil fuels to an economy that's powered by clean, carbon-free resources, such as solar, wind, batteries, geothermal. And why are we doing this? Because as I'm about to get into, this is not an easy project. It's a long project. And I'm sure everyone knows this, but I think it's still always important to just ground in the why, which is to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change, but also to improve public health. When we reduce fossil fuel combustion, we clean up air pollution, and also to build energy security. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give, again, a high-level overview of where we are in the energy transition to give you a sense of the emotions that we're going to go through on the talk. I'm going to start with some good progress that we've made. I'm then going to talk about how far it is that we have to go, which is when it gets like, oh, this is a big deal. And then I'm going to wrap up with what it looks like on the community level. So we're starting with how far we've come. So I'm lucky enough that I started this work well over a decade ago now at a time when California's emissions were still rising. And so I've gone through this period in my career where emissions have actually started to go down, while at the same time, California's economy has continued to grow. I think that's really, really important. And probably because I've gone through that transition of going from a time when emissions were rising to a time when now we can see actual progress, I maintain some optimism about what is possible, even though we have a long way to go. Electricity emissions have decreased by about half in that time, so also really important to think about how, in some ways, when we can look at this level, how quickly that transformation has happened. I remember when California set the targets for cleaner electricity, and it was like, no way, impossible. How are we going to do this? You can see we've made great strides. EV sales have really taken off. This is something that we can really see, particularly in this region, right, where it feels like all of the sudden we see EVs just about everywhere. Probably you know somebody with an EV. Again, it wasn't that long ago where this was really novel and really strange, and people didn't quite know what it was. I remember my first EV was a Nissan Leaf that only went about 100 miles. I live in Santa Cruz. I could kind of make it to work in San Jose and plug in and charge so that I could get back over that hill, right? And now you can do that much easily without even thinking about it, without even having to charge, right? So, but I also, this to me is even a greater statement that in Santa Clara County, now almost 50% of new car sales are EVs. We are really leading the nation in this transition. It's now cheaper to operate a home with pollution-free appliances. So folks don't always realize this, but there have been changes in how rates are structured by PG&E. And so that now when folks install a pollution-free water heater, a heat pump water heater, you actually will be able to see savings on bills. It's still very expensive to install this equipment. I'm not painting any kind of rosy picture. It's also still way too expensive to power our homes. We've got a major energy affordability crisis happening in California. Not want to overcoat that picture. But we are at a point now where you can actually power your home on pollution-free appliances at a lower cost. Okay, so that's the good news on how far we've come. We are now in what folks call the critical decade for climate action. And that's based on what the science tells us of how quickly that we need to reduce emissions to meet those targets. I also want to mention like that target of getting off of fossil fuels by 2045 was really directed by scientists that say that's where we need to reduce emissions to stay under the warming potential that causes the most problems. So despite these kind of reductions in about every sector of our economy, hitting those targets would require drastically increasing reductions over the next 10 years. There's a long way to go to get there. I'm going to go over some of those key challenges now. So the first is on electricity. So we talked about, folks have probably heard how quick the costs for solar have gone down, right? And now how oftentimes renewable energy is more financially competitive than fossil energy, which is why we've really seen this great increase. However, the challenge in front of us is now how do we ensure during off hours, usually in the evenings and the nighttime, that we can power our grid with clean energy? How can we maintain and even increase energy reliability without further driving up costs? And how can we address the bill affordability issues that we're seeing? Those are the big challenges in front of us over the next decade. Next, so in SVCE territory, about 40% of our emissions come from heating in buildings and businesses, from buildings, basically, in homes and businesses. And about 40% come from cars and trucks. So in order to hit those climate goals, that means replacing about 1 million machines by 2045. That's a big transition, high number. To give you a sense, in SVCE territory today, we do a few hundred, maybe 500 replacements of home appliances a year. We're looking at trying to move that up to 10 to 15,000 a year in the next 5 years. It's a big change that requires a lot of thinking. Okay, so that's how far we've come and how far it is that we need to go. Now I'm going to talk about what this looks like on the ground level. So the first thing that I want to say is that the energy transition, it sounds like this big, complicated thing, and in many ways it is. In many ways, this is a global issue that touches on macroeconomics and all sorts of things. But also fundamentally, this happens at the community level. When we're talking towards moving towards a clean energy economy, we're talking about swapping out water heaters. We're talking about changing the time and the way that we fuel our vehicles. We're talking about shifting permitting practices with building officials, installing new electric circuits and running conduit in our homes. It's honestly pretty boring. It's kind of nuts and bolts stuff. On the other hand, while it's complicated to do it at scale, the changes are simple and straightforward and things that we know how to do. And I think we can take solace in that piece of it, right? This isn't major rocket science here. It's changes that happens at a building by building level and block by block change. The challenge really is how do we make these changes that involve going into every home, every business, every vehicle that we now drive in and upgrading them, changing them to a new technology in a way that minimizes disruption, that doesn't cause undue burden to economically vulnerable groups, that doesn't cause undue difficulty just in the day-to-day living, right? Sometimes right now it can take longer to install a pollution-free water heater, many days, than it does to install a regular standard gas water heater, right? So how do we kind of make those transitions? And so the new tagline that I've been thinking of is that we need to move fast, but we need to do it without breaking things. Okay, so here are some of the things that we are doing at SVCE and what this kind of can look and feel like at a community level. But I also want to say, since this is really a group that is expert in community action and mobilization, that I honor your thoughts and ideas as well of how can we think about working with neighborhood groups, community groups, volunteer organizations to think about making these type of transitions. So here's just some of the things that we're working on. So first, incentives and technical assistance can lower the cost and the hassle of making the switch. So the money piece is one challenge of switching to pollution-free appliances. But also there's just the challenge of navigating things. And so one of the things that we're finding really navigating the contractor process, navigating different kinds of builds, navigating, my contractor says that I need to upgrade my panel, which involves PG&E. Do I really need to do that? So one of the things that we're finding, again, kind of simple, straightforward, somewhat boring solution is that a hotline, a chat function that folks can call and walk themselves through this process goes a long way. We're able to offer what we call a direct install program that is either lower cost for most folks or completely free for people who are income qualified so they can benefit from this transition. Another is installing charging at multifamily properties ensures that the benefits of EVs can be felt and experienced by all people. I showed you that amazing number of the takeoff in EVs. Probably not surprisingly, it's very concentrated adoption. So it's by and large single-family properties that have access to a garage and a place to charge their car, wealthier families that are able to take the benefit, which is A bummer also because it's much more affordable to actually operate an EV. So one of the things that we're doing is partnering to, again, provide technical assistance and rebates to multifamily property owners. We have a special program that works specifically with affordable housing property owners. And my final example of community level action, which may be the dullest example, but the one that I spend probably most of my time on, is around local building codes and permitting processes, right? So again, I mentioned that we need to move in the next several years from a place where very few multifamily properties have access to EV charging, and where we're doing maybe 100 swap outs to clean appliances, to the place where nearly all multifamily properties have access to EV charging, and we're doing tens of thousands of swap outs a year. So there's this big question, how do you do that in a way that is smooth and, again, breaks as few things as possible? It turns out one of the smartest, most cost-effective ways to move the market is through building codes. So folks are likely aware that many cities several years ago adopted new construction building codes that basically required that when homes were built, they would be built pollution-free. Due to some legal changes, many of those codes were later rolled back. However, I just want to point this out. In that this 3-year period, when our cities in SVCE territory, and I'm sorry, I couldn't get the number for the whole county, I just couldn't do that math, so I just got for our 13 jurisdictions. In those 3 years when those codes were in place, over 11,000 units were built pollution-free, or permitted pollution-free, which is equivalent to reducing future retrofit costs of over $71 million. It also dramatically reduces upfront construction costs and ensures ongoing bill savings. So the point of this is to say that these things are difficult and complicated, but when we think about the most sensible time to take these actions, we can often reduce the cost, and it might be in a place that's pragmatic, although not always intuitive. And we are looking ahead and working with building officials across our service territory and city managers across our service territory to think about how we can continue to encourage this transition at sensible times from existing buildings. Okay, so in summary, we have come a long way. We've come a long way in a relatively short period of time. Again, to just take into account that we were driving emissions up and we have shifted that trajectory in California is a huge, huge statement. And we also have a long way to go. In many ways, the largest challenges are in front of us over this next decade. And achieving these goals will require balancing competing priorities in the electricity sector. Community-level action is going to be the foundation of a successful transition. I would honor this participation of all of you in thinking through how we can do that. We are a community organization and requires all minds. And then finally, transformation is really built circuit by circuit, home by home, block by block. We often think of climate change as a big thing that is out there beyond our ability to influence, but really so much of the change that builds this transformation is right in front of us in our own homes and in our own communities. And by working together, I think we will see much progress over this next critical decade. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, with those red badgers with microphones, if you've got a question, please, got one right up here. We got lots of, you got a lot of questions. This is good.
All right.
Not a shy bunch.
Good, fantastic.
All right.
Oh, yes.
I think that's Bonnie Brezzo, is that right?
It is Bonnie Brezzo.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, I have this sparked a question in my
A
mind.
little closer to the mic, please.
Oh, this sparked a question in my mind about something called, I believe it was called a bloom box, that we may be able to have in our yards someday, and maybe companies would be using it first for developing our own energy for our own personal use?
I think what you may be talking about, there's a company called Bloom Energy, and they build hydrogen equipment. Right now, it's mostly fueled by natural gas and used in industrial applications. I haven't heard of potential for them being used at the home. So if that's what you're talking about, then I believe that's hydrogen energy, and they are right now used mostly in industrial applications.
Okay, great. I think I've got Dave right here.
All right. Thank you, President Heather. Thank you very much, Zoe. Very, very interesting. We had a speaker 2 or 3 weeks ago who was talking about the supply side in some of her remarks. And just in the city of Santa Clara, where I live, she mentioned the fact that data centers are going up so quickly now. They account for over 50% of the power consumption in Santa Clara. So with what you're working on the creating more demand for electricity by replacing gas appliances, what do you or what does Silicon Valley Clean Energy see for the supply side consequences of that?
Great, I'll weigh in, and if you want to add anything else, please feel free to jump in too.
We'll get you a microphone.
Okay, yeah. Great question. So I will also say Santa Clara is a unique city within the entire world, really, because it's the hub of data center activity. So they're always going to be far kind of above the curve in terms of how much load is driven by data centers. We are also in this fascinating time of transition and uncertainty among many fronts. And AI and the increased need for potential data center is certainly one of them. And so it's something that we pay attention to quite a lot. And there's this, we are actually in the process of doing some load forecasting to kind of understand the potential new demand from AI versus electrification. What's difficult with the AI is it's very uncertain. However, the projects also do tend to take time to develop over time, so there is a longer runway. Electrification, as I was talking about, we're actually talking about in terms of the peak load, which is really what drives our infrastructure over time, something like a 2% increase per year. So, and it's pretty gradual. And so we feel confident that we will be able to power and supply that clean energy for electrification.
Well, great. Oh, yes, Tom Bondi.
So that may answer part of it. Just a question of the power grid is already stressed out, and just questioning how is that going to come about to our other agencies working to increase efficiency of the power grid so that all this additional electricity doesn't shut down the whole system?
Yep, great question, and this is also one that comes up quite a lot. So again, the incremental addition from electrification is not something that we see as causing greater outages. Really, the things that are driving more and more outages are often climate change driven, so increased demand for air conditioning and of course wildfire issues. And so it's really a yes and solution that we need to think about, because we need to continue to add or to clean up our atmosphere, and either way we need to make sure that the grid is strong, resilient, and prepared. Hope that somewhat answers your question.
Shiloh.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm going to ask a question with my Santa Clara Valley Water District Board of Directors hat on. And I'm sure you know that one of the ways that we're going to be able to meet our demand for water over the next, bazillion years is through not using as much water. And one of the ways that we get there is by encouraging all the good folks in the room to swap out their lawns for more drought-resilient stuff, which is, if you want to do that, you're facing the same challenges that you're talking about, going home by home and saying, okay, we need to swap out some stuff. What I'm wondering is, have you been exploring partnerships with the other types of entities that are that need to be making these changes, one, resident at a time.
Yeah, really interesting. I don't think that we have active partnerships with water agencies, but I think it's a really interesting idea. Yeah.
I know that we've got to get some microphones on that side of the room. Does anyone have one over there already? Okay. Oh, great. I think you were, help me out. Who was first? Go for it. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. We just made our first foray into the EV world in about the last month or so. And I have to tell you, I love it.
Good.
The car that we bought is a little tiny 2-passenger car, fully electric. And the license plate on that car, in case anyone wants to know, except the police department, but is a little LITL-OCD, little obsessive compulsive disorder. Well, the reason I'm mentioning that is that I would rather drive that than anything else that we have. And we've got some, pretty nice full-size cars, but it has about a 140-mile radius. We have the home rigged, for charging by a solar charger. So when it runs down after about 130 or 40 miles, we just plug it in and we're ready to go again in about an hour and a half. So I really do, I am looking forward to graduating into a full EV vehicle. But I have to tell you, I love driving this thing more than anything. I mean, I could do a U-turn right here.
If you have a question in there, it'd be great.
Yes, I do.
Editorial, because I'm going to fine you if it's an editorial.
The question is,
Yeah.
I understand that it's a used vehicle. I understand we get a credit for that, a credit card, IRS credit for that of some kind?
Tax credits for the EVs, yes. The tax credit world has become much more complicated in the last year, so without knowing exactly what your make or model is, I can't tell you for sure.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have you give that to Matt Bell. He's been waiting for quite some time. I mean, but Artie, I understand. I just want you to get to the, okay, now Bonnie, then Matt, please.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I'd like to go down to the really kind of micro part of your presentation where you talked about circuit by circuit, house by house. As most of you know, my husband Marv likes to get into everything when it first comes out. We're now replacing our 25-year-old solar panels. And of course, we have batteries. But what I want to tell you about is this thing called a heat pump water heater. Now, I was very opposed to these. But Cindy Faulkner talked to my husband, and they talked, and all of a sudden, we're going to get a heat pump water heater in our house, whether I completely agreed or not. Well, let me tell you, if you like wine, you want a heat pump water heater, because we now have the finest wine cellar you could imagine. You know, a heat pump is a reverse of a heat source. So you're making this space very cool. It stays cool all the time, and I've now gone through a summer of summer heat in a garage that would get very hot. Now it's nice and cool, and we keep our wine there. So when you're ready for your heat pump water heater, think about your wine storage and place it accordingly.
Well, thank you, Bonnie. All right, and Cindy Faulkner's right here at the front table, folks. She'll be here all day. 10% off. Was it 10% off if you sign up today? Matt Bell.
I'm going to put you in contact with our marketing team because we need more good testimonials.
I was going to say, I think, Zoe, I think you need to take a couple of these people on the road with you. Yeah. So kind of a multi-part question. I'm assuming that as an organization, you want to expand your reach and expand your services. I'm wondering what are some of the major barriers for new areas, new cities to do so? And then are you seeing any kind of shift or impact from the kind of changing political views on clean energy?
We have no ambitions that I am aware of, unless they're very quiet, to grow our service territory. Some other CCAs are growing, and the region, the movement as a whole is expanding into AVA, which used to be East Bay Community Energy, recently expanded into the the Eastern California and the Valley, which I think is a wonderful thing, but we are not planning to expand. And then in terms of, it's a difficult question, right? So in terms of changing kind of federal administration, I'll say one thing is that the past administration had passed some of the most ambitious climate funding that we've ever seen. And so a lot of that opportunity is slowing down. We know some cities that had grants approved that are not getting that money. So it's sort of like that was helpful, and now it's shifting away. Luckily for CCAs, we are self-funded. And so it doesn't impact directly what we're able to do. And in many instances, we're able to step in and kind of fill those gaps. And because our work is so local, it kind of continues. I think there are just, as we're facing generally an affordability crisis in California, so this is not really driven by the state, or by the federal government, but a lot of attention in Sacramento is on how can we reduce housing costs and housing construction costs, and how can we reduce affordability, or how can we increase affordability of energy bills. I think these things really go hand in hand, and that ultimately the best climate solutions will improve our economy and increase affordability for construction and make businesses more profitable. But it does, often in times like this, just the political conversation is moving away from climate change, which feels like an added to. And because we're in this just a time when we actually need a lot of ambition and focus over the next decade, I think we're seeing a shift in that. And I'd say at a state level, as much has an impact even as actually at the federal level.
Fantastic answer. Steve Prouty?
Yes.
And then we've got Dave Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. So what is there any consideration for building small nuclear plants in various localities to reduce the transmission load and to provide sustainable all-the-time power?
Yeah. So small nuclear is not yet market ready. But I believe you all had a speaker maybe that spoke about nuclear not that long ago. So understand that one of the benefits of advanced nuclear is that it provides this really rare thing, which is all the time, 24/7, clean, steady power. And that's the type of energy that we really need. Things like geothermal also provide that type of energy. If you can pair batteries with the right time of clean, you can also get that. But that kind of, we call clean, firm energy is like the golden goose. And I think if those technologies come to bear and they are cost effective, they will likely be a solution. If there are localities that are excited to enable permitting for such things, I'm sure that would be probably a welcome part of that discussion.
Localities. Dave Cohen.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. And first of all, I'm excited to have brought Lori here from San Jose Clean Energy. If you live in San Jose, you're very likely getting your electricity from San Jose Clean Energy. 99% of the business and residential customers in the city do get their energy from San Jose Clean Energy. I have a question about, so one of the arguments we hear against electrification in homes is because of the publicity about rising electricity costs, people believe that, that's going to cost them more in the long run because of having to pay for more electricity, but obviously they're phasing out gas. Your data showed that costs are decreased by electrifying your home. Can you just talk a little bit about that trade-off?
Yeah, absolutely. 99%, so San Jose has a better, we have a 96% opt-in rate, so you're better than us, and they also have, I believe, an 8% discount compared to PG&E, which is also higher than SVCE, so always glad to give more credit where credit's due. Yeah, so it's a really tricky thing to communicate. So first of all, just give a background on this study, which has evolved over the last year and a half. A big part of my job is going out and talking to local elected officials and communities about why it was important to pass codes that enable electrification. In my personal life, I have to go home and talk to my mom, who's a very important person in my life, and she was not going to look at me straight in the eye if I could tell her that I wasn't going to drive up people's electricity bills. for her and her friends, right? They're retired and live on Social Security, and it's a really big deal. And so I had a personal investment, one in making sure that we really, really paid attention. I just want to give that background. But it's really complicated, sort of, one, to understand your own electricity bill. And then it's also really complicated to say, okay, last month my bill was this, I installed this heat pump, but I don't, my electricity bill's gone up and my gas bill has gone down. It's kind of a complicated thing to understand. So I want to say, I don't know about the communications piece of it. I think it's always going to be hard. But what we tried to do is do the best analysis that we possibly could. So we combined kind of modeled data, which would be the least influenced to kind of changes in circumstances, like somebody had a bunch of, if we looked at bills of people that they had people come over and stayed for a week and their bills went up, we didn't know why, all sorts of things. We took model data, but we also validated that against hundreds of thousands of real accounts so that we could say, okay, baseline electricity use looks like this, baseline gas usage looks like this. And I will actually say when we, and then we looked at if you just changed this one appliance, what would it do to the actual bills? When we first ran the data, it looked a lot better, actually, than what we showed you. But we realized that we have a number of very large homes in our service territory that were sort of skewing that. So we wanted to be extra conservative, and we did an average in a smaller home, around 1,800 square feet for the single family. And we were able to just kind of tease out, again, isolating, if you switched this one appliance, what would the change be? The other key factor there is that people have to change their electricity rate. And people, that's also one of these things that's not broadcast that well, but about 18 months ago, PG&E changed the rates. They have something called ELEC. And once you have an EV or one electric appliance, you can change your rate. And then the cost for all your electricity actually goes down. So you're not saving, you're saving money because heat pumps are really efficient, but also your lighting, your gaming system, your wine cellar, everything else is more efficient. So that's the why. Probably, as I'm saying this, the way we're gonna have to communicate this is gonna be really upfront and personal, group by group, so people begin to understand how this works.
We are at time for questions, and I still see that there are more. Will you stick around afterwards
Yeah,
for
I'd
just
be
a few
delighted.
minutes?
Yep.
Okay, great. Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Elizabeth.
Thank you all.
We have, stick around for just a minute. Whoops, I'm gonna, not sure where okay, we have made a gift in your name to the Dancing Cat Lounge. And then we always provide our guests with these premium Chandler walnuts, our agricultural gifts. So fantastic, there you go. Let's go a little photo. Okay. Thank you so much. You guys were a great audience for that one. Thank you so very much. Great questions, great answers. I'm tripping on cords up here. That's what I'm doing. Okay, next week, our speaker is Brigitte Helms, SCU Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship. We've got a couple speakers from Santa Clara University. Thank you, thank you. And then final thoughts. April membership applications are due at the end of the day. If all of those of you are recruiting new members, I know several of you are, I just want to remind you that there's actually a process and a cycle to this. Those are accepted by the end of day today, have time to get vetted before our next membership meeting. Otherwise, they go into the May membership cycle. So please follow up with those people that you've invited as guests to the room, people who are just right there on the edge and ready to commit. Send in those applications today. And then what we're going to have in 2 weeks from now, I keep mentioning Okayama, and so did Mary Curtis from Disaster Relief. This is our sister city. On April 16th, we've got about 25 delegates coming to our room to join us here in San Jose, and I'm calling it Sakura at the Summit Center. Scott Seafood has designed a very special menu for us. It's also Passover, so we're going to have some matzah for you. And does Judge Weisbrot left? I arranged matzah just for us. All right, anyway, so that's the special menu there. We're going to have taiko performing. Thank you, Catherine Tompkison, for providing taiko drummers for us that day. And then as a very special surprise, we had a pizza in progress meeting last night where I brought all of our committee chairs together to tell us the good news of what's been happening during this presidential year. And we tasted the first ever Peter's Bakery burnt almond cake but cherry version. So the official dessert of San Jose is getting a cherry flair to it, and you'll be able to have that on April 16th as we celebrate Sakura at the Summit Center. And then if you just can't get enough cherry blossoms, which I know I can't, Jay and I are going to go to the Haname at Hakone Gardens. So check that out. They've got some special nighttime viewing, and unbelievably, there are still spots available, and it's pretty cheap. So check it out. Go see cherry blossoms and enjoy your spring. We are adjourned.